I want to talk about this reporting from Ken Klippenstein over at TYT Investigates. They have gotten a hold of a document. This is an internal document. That is, these are internal agency documents that show that at least 3, it appears, deaths that took place amongst ICE detainees were preventable. This is according to an internal document. One ICE official apparently told TYT the problem is systemic. This is a letter written to this guy, Matthew Albence. Who is Matthew Albence? He was the acting deputy director of ICE. Let's look at a clip of Albence, shall we? This is where he likened these detention centers to summer camp.
With regard to the FRCs, I think the best way to describe them is to be more like a summer camp. These individuals have access to 24/7 food and water. They have educational opportunities. They have recreational opportunities, both structured as well as unstructured.
Wow, that sounds like camp. Did they also make macrame? According to this internal document, ICE's Health Service Corp is severely dysfunctional, and unfortunately preventable harm and death to detainees has occurred. This is a letter sent to Matthew Albence. The memo bears the subject line "Urgent Matter," was written by a supervisor at ICE's Health Services Corp.
Looks like there's a number of attachments. I wonder if those are images.
It's possible. It details over a dozen, because a lot of this is redacted. It details over a dozen cases in which ICE allegedly failed to provide its detainees with proper medical care, including 3 which resulted in fatalities. One of these cases involves alleged ICE, quote, negligence in handling a medical incident resulting in a detainee's death at ICE's Eloy Detention Center in Arizona. According to the document, ICE did not heed warnings from an official about an apparent case of neuroleptic malignant syndrome. The memo plainly says of another ICE detainee, quote, suicide victim, Mr. Efrain de la Rosa could have been saved. The document goes on to state that ICE, quote, received a total of 12 significant event notification reports prior to his death. 12. Depicting suicidal ideation and psychosis. Moreover, De La Rosa was not being treated with psychotropic medication. Instead, he was remanded to segregation. Isolation, in other words. Which psychiatrists consider to be torture. Mr. De La Rosa's suicide closely mirrors the previous suicide of Mr. Joseph Jimenez at Stewart Detention Center. This is referencing the 3rd fatality that was allegedly preventable. In yet another case, writes Klippenstein, the detainee was removed from respiratory isolation despite having tuberculosis, which, as you know, is highly contagious. Documents note that ICE is having identified a trend of detainees not treated for alcohol and drug withdrawal. The memo goes on to state many detainees have encountered preventable harm and death. IHSC leadership is not focused on preventing horrible reoccurrences. This is an agency that is systemically corrupt and dysfunctional. It's time to get rid of it. It's time to get rid of it.
And for real, not like rename it, slightly reshuffle it. The whole operation of a paramilitary force to terrorize immigrant communities needs to be destroyed root and branch, and the whole process needs to be demilitarized.
Here's Ilhan Omar making the same point this afternoon, I guess, just about half an hour ago. ICE as an organization has become increasingly militarized, brutal, and unaccountable. It must be abolished. I don't know if it's become more so. It probably has, according to folks like Ronald Reagan, but certainly we're more aware of it. So either way, Donald Trump could get up there and say, Barack Obama's ICE is horrible. I'm disbanding it, and I'll be happy. I don't care.
Why didn't you deal with this problem when it was less visible?